The wind howled across the open plains of Silver Creek, Colorado, lashing the sides of Walter Granger's old wooden barn like an angry tide. Rain hammered the metal roof, and lightning split the sky in jagged bursts, casting eerie flashes over the empty paddocks. Walter, 65, weathered as the land he worked, stood at the edge of his porch with a battered flashlight in one hand and a heavy coat slung over his shoulders. He was no stranger to storms, but something about tonight crawled under his skin. He turned his collar up and made his slow, careful way toward the barn. His knees ached from years of ranching, and the cold crept into his bones like it belonged there. As he unlatched the barn door and stepped inside, the smell of hay, damp wood, and something else, something sharp and raw, hit him square in the face. Then he heard it. A low, guttural whinny. His beam of light cut through the darkness, landing on a trembling, silver-gray mare hunched in the corner. Her flanks were heaving. Her coat glistened with sweat despite the cold. She was huge, easily 17 hands high, and her belly bulged as if it might burst. But what stopped Walter in his tracks were her eyes. They locked onto his with a depth he couldn't explain. Not wild fear, not panic, something else. Something that almost looked like understanding. "Easy now, girl," he murmured, voice hoarse. "Picked one hell of a night, didn't ya?" The mare snorted and shifted, revealing the deep lines of strain across her body. Walter stepped closer, cautious but calm. He'd delivered foals before, plenty in his day, but this didn't look right. The labor had clearly been going on too long, her muscles spasming with effort, but no sign of the foal yet. He could see in her eyes she was exhausted, barely holding on. Walter's fingers trembled as he reached into his coat pocket for his phone. He didn't hesitate. He called the only person he trusted in a moment like this. "Ellie," he said as soon as she picked up, "I need you, now." "Walter?" came the voice of Doctor. Ellie Monroe, calm but alert. "What's wrong?" "It's a Mustang Mare. She wandered into my barn. She's in labor, but something's off. Real off." There was silence, save for the crackle of the storm over the line. "Stay with her," Ellie said. "I'm on my way." 25 minutes later, headlights cut through the darkness as a muddy pickup truck skidded to a stop outside the barn. Ellie jumped out, a waterproof vet bag slung over one shoulder, soaked to the bone but moving fast. She stepped inside and froze as soon as she laid eyes on the mare. "Oh my God," she breathed. "Yeah," Walter muttered, arms folded tightly across his chest. "You're seeing it too." Ellie knelt beside the mare and gently laid a hand on her side. The mare didn't resist. Her breathing was shallow, her legs shaking, but her eyes stayed locked on Ellie's face with eerie focus. "Her vitals are elevated, but not in the way I'd expect," Ellie said, pulling out her stethoscope. "She's beyond exhausted, yet it's like she's pacing herself, holding back." Walter raised an eyebrow. "What are you saying?" "I've never seen anything like it," Ellie said. "She's not just surviving this labor, she's managing it, almost calculating." The barn rattled with a sudden thunderclap, and both of them flinched. Ellie turned serious. "I'm calling in backup. This is beyond me." "Who?" Walter asked. "Dr. Javier Morales," she said, already dialing. "He's head of large animal obstetrics at Denver University." Walter whistled low. "You really think it's that serious?" "I don't think," she said, eyes fixed on the mare. "I know." 2 hours passed, and the storm showed no sign of mercy. Lightning flashed across the distant ridge, illuminating the mountains like ghostly giants. Inside the barn, the atmosphere was thick with tension. The mare remained upright, laboring with strange poise. She'd collapse now and then, only to stand again with a steady breath, like she was waiting, deliberately. Walter sat on an overturned feed bucket, watching in silence. The pain in his chest had started to throb, a dull reminder of the heart condition he'd kept mostly to himself. But he wouldn't leave her. Something about that mare pulled at him. She wasn't just a wild animal in trouble. She was something more. At 2:47 a.m., a second truck rolled up. A tall man stepped out, his salt and pepper hair slicked with rain, wearing a long coat and carrying a case of instruments. Dr. Javier Morales looked like he hadn't slept in days, but he moved with focus and precision. "Walter Granger?" he asked. "That's me. I'm Morales. Let's see what kind of mystery you've got for me." Inside the barn, his expression darkened immediately upon seeing the mare. "She's enormous," he said to Ellie. "Too big for a Mustang, way too big." They worked in silence at first, Ellie holding instruments, Morales running scans, feeling the mare's belly, listening, observing. The mare never flinched, even when Morales used a portable ultrasound. "Something's not right," he muttered. "What do you mean?" Ellie asked. "The foal's position is completely abnormal, but that's not the strange part." He looked up, eyes searching Ellie's. "She's compensating. Her body is adjusting in real time. Every time the pressure builds too much, she shifts, slows it down, waits. It's like she knows what she's doing." Walter stood slowly. "You mean she's controlling the birth?" Morales didn't answer right away. Finally, he said, "I've been delivering foals for 30 years. This question mark. This isn't normal, it's intelligent." For a long moment, no one spoke. The mare let out a deep breath and shifted again, pressing her head against Walter's chest. He froze, caught off guard by the gesture. "I think," he said softly, "she's trying to tell us something." As the storm raged on, the three of them remained inside that barn. One old rancher, 2 seasoned veterinarians, and a silver mare, whose presence was beginning to unravel everything they thought they knew about nature. And none of them yet understood. The real mystery hadn't even begun. The storm hadn't let up. Rain continued to hammer the barn roof with relentless rhythm, while thunder rolled like a war drum over the Colorado hills. But inside the dimly lit barn, time had slowed to a crawl. The three of them, Walter, Ellie, and Dr. Morales, stood shoulder to shoulder beside the silver mare, their faces drawn and their breath held like they were watching a miracle unravel in slow motion. "She's been in labor far too long," Morales murmured, adjusting the ultrasound monitor balanced on a hay bale. "Yet her vitals are unnaturally stable." Ellie glanced at the screen. "That positioning still looks wrong, but the foal's heartbeat, it's strong. Too strong," Morales muttered. "Almost too consistent. As if the stress of labor isn't affecting it at all." Walter shifted from foot to foot, his flannel shirt soaked through despite the warm barn. "I've seen mares lose it from a 6-hour delivery. She's been going since last night, maybe longer, but she's standing like she's waiting for a cue. I don't like this," Ellie whispered, brushing her hand gently over the mare's flank. "Something's happening, but it's not natural. She's planning." At that moment, the mare let out a long, low sound, half groan, half exhale. Her massive body lowered carefully onto the hay, and she began pushing again, this time with quiet determination. The air shifted. It was as if the barn itself held its breath. "Okay," Morales said, snapping on gloves. "We need to help her through this. Ellie, prep the suction unit. Walter, stand by the generator. If anything goes wrong, we need to keep the power flowing." For the next 20 minutes, they worked in tense coordination. The mare barely made a sound as the first foal began to crown. Slowly, with remarkable calm, she delivered a colt. "First one's out," Ellie announced, voice shaky with awe. She cleaned the colt's nostrils, patted him gently. "Breathing normal. Strong lungs, he's beautiful." The foal was striking, sleek, with the same silver-gray coloring as his mother, legs long and steady. He blinked at the light, his body slick and shivering, but already pushing himself up on unsteady hooves. "We've got a healthy boy," Morales confirmed, his voice unusually soft. That should have been it. But the mare wasn't done. She groaned again, body tensing. Another contraction rippled through her abdomen, and her body twisted slightly, carefully. That's when they saw it. "There's another one," Ellie said, eyes wide. "She's carrying twins." Walter stepped back. "Twins? That's damn near unheard of in wild Mustangs." "Almost never ends well," Morales agreed, already repositioning himself. "We need to be ready for complications." But they weren't ready, not for what came next. The second foal didn't just emerge, it unfolded. It was massive, nearly double the size of its brother, and its coat was unlike anything they'd seen. Pure white, not gray, not cream, but bright, luminescent white that shimmered like moonlight. The moment its legs touched the hay, it didn't struggle or wobble. It stood, straight up, head high, eyes wide open, and it looked around the barn as if it recognized it. Ellie dropped her instruments. "What the hell?" The foal turned its head, slowly, and locked eyes with each of them. Its gaze was steady, alert, focused. Nothing in that newborn stare was wild or confused. It was intentional. Walter took a step forward, his breath caught somewhere in his throat. "I'll be damned. That thing's not more than 5 minutes old." "And it's already standing," Morales added, stunned. "With full balance, full control, that's not possible." The white foal blinked slowly and took 2 cautious steps toward Ellie, who instinctively held her breath. It stopped inches from her, then tilted its head, curious, not fearful. Its ears twitched at the sound of the rain. Its legs, though wet and newborn slick, didn't buckle once. "This is—" Ellie didn't finish the sentence. There were no words. Meanwhile, the silver colt had finally found his feet and was leaning shakily against his mother's side. A beautiful, healthy foal. Completely normal. Compared to his brother, he looked primitive. "Walter," Ellie said softly, her eyes not leaving the white foal. "What are you going to call them?" Walter swallowed. "The first one, he's Hope. He looks like what we know, what we expect." "And the other?" Walter's eyes met the foal's. "Nova," he said, "'cause he shines like a damn star." Nova didn't blink. He almost looked like he understood. Dr. Morales recovered his voice. "We need blood samples, DNA, muscle scans, everything." Ellie nodded. "Agreed, but be gentle. He's not reacting like a newborn. He's reacting like he's aware." As they moved cautiously to begin tests, Nova watched them. Not just followed their movement, but watched, like he was trying to read them, understand them. Walter knelt nearby and whispered, "You ain't just some fool, are you?" Nova took a step toward him and lowered his head, not to nuzzle, but to meet Walter's eyes again. There was no fear in that barn, only silence, awe, and something else none of them could name. Reverence, maybe, as if they were standing at the edge of something vast. Later that night, as Ellie ran tests by lantern light and Morales reviewed the ultrasound footage, Walter sat alone in the hay with a blanket around his shoulders. The storm had quieted, but the wind still murmured outside. The silver mare lay curled around her twins, one dozing peacefully, the other still awake, quietly observing everything, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Walter didn't know what had walked into his barn that night, but he knew the world had shifted, and somewhere deep in his gut, Past the years of ranching and hard-earned skepticism, a new feeling took root. Wonder. The morning after the birth broke in slow shades of gray over the mountains of Silver Creek. The rain had stopped, but the clouds hung low, casting the ranch in a muted stillness. It was the kind of silence that came after something irreversible had happened, like the earth itself was catching its breath. Inside the barn, the mood was far from quiet. Dr. Ellie Monroe sat hunched over a fold-out table, her laptop open beside a set of labeled vials and blood slides. She hadn't slept. Neither had Dr. Javier Morales, who paced back and forth near the Foals, glancing over his notes like they might suddenly make sense if he read them just one more time. Walter Granger leaned against a support beam, sipping coffee from a chipped thermos. He hadn't said much since dawn, but his eyes never left Nova. The white foal stood beside his silver-coated twin, watching the humans with that same eerie calm. His ears flicked at every click, every whisper, every shift of light. When Ellie moved toward him with another scanner, Nova stepped aside and then stepped back. Not out of fear, but as if cooperating. "This is insane," Ellie muttered, eyes locked on her screen. "His blood work's not just unusual, it's, wrong." "Wrong how?" Walter asked, his voice raspier than usual. "Wrong, like it doesn't match any equine blood profile we've ever recorded," she replied. "Different protein markers. Elevated neuron precursors. His genetic signature doesn't align with any known species, horse or otherwise." "Could it be a mutation?" Morales asked, crouching beside the foals. "A fluke of nature?" "Mutations don't create new organ markers or brainwave frequencies that mimic human infants," Ellie shot back. "This isn't a mutation, it's something else entirely." Morales rubbed his temple, suddenly looking 20 years older. "We need outside help." "I already made the call," Ellie said. 3 of the top minds in animal genetics are en route. Cornell, Berkeley, NIH, they'll be here by tonight. Walter raised an eyebrow. "A bit much for a newborn horse, don't you think?" "Not when the horse tries to read your laptop screen," Ellie said quietly. "He wasn't looking at the lights. He was tracking the data as I scrolled. Walter, he's trying to understand." Walter didn't respond. His eyes were on Nova, who was now watching Morales with that same calm scrutiny. That evening, the barn became something else, a field lab humming with tension and disbelief. Dr. Lisa Wang, a geneticist from the National Institutes of Health, arrived first. Next came Dr. Helena Vasquez from UC Berkeley, and finally Dr. James Patterson, a neurologist from Cornell. Each of them expected something curious. None of them were prepared. This isn't natural," Dr. Wang said an hour into her testing. "Nova's DNA isn't just different, it's structured. Deliberately. These aren't evolutionary deviations, they're engineered traits." Dr. Vasquez, who had spent the last decade studying neural development in mammals, added, "His brainwave patterns are closer to dolphins and primates than horses, and even then, the activity level is off the charts." "Meaning?" Walter asked, arms folded. "Meaning this foal is operating cognitively at a level well beyond newborn anything," Patterson said, "and maybe beyond adult humans." Walter let that sink in. He looked over at Nova, who now stood with his twin, Hope, near their mother's side. Nova's glowing white coat caught the lantern light like a mirror, and his eyes, always those eyes, never stopped moving. Then, without prompting, Nova walked toward Ellie's open laptop. He stepped carefully, deliberately, and lowered his head. With a movement that should have been impossible for a creature without fingers, he pressed a hoof to the spacebar. Everyone froze. A black screen blinked to life. A blank document opened. Slowly, impossibly, Nova tapped again. Letters appeared, halting at first, then smoother. Genetic Preservation Program, Critical Timeline, Earth Biodiversity in Danger. No one breathed, no one moved. Lisa Wang's voice was a whisper. Is he typing? He is, Ellie said, her voice cracking. He's not reacting randomly. He knows what he's doing. Morales crossed himself. I don't know what's happening here, but this isn't a horse, not the way we understand it. Nova stepped back, watching their stunned faces with calm patience. Behind him, his brother Hope nuzzled their mother's side, normal in every way, sweet, ordinary. Nova turned back to the screen and added, Cooperation required. Intelligence augmentation essential. Survival depends on synthesis. Dr. Vasquez finally found her voice. He's trying to warn us. Or lead us, Patterson said. Walter's grip tightened on his thermos. Lead us where? Nova looked up at him, eyes gleaming. Then he turned, walked to the back of the barn, and stopped beside a pile of old straw and dirt. He looked at it, then at them, and began to dig. The metal scrape of a shovel broke the quiet. Walter worked slowly, carefully, his boots crunching against hay and dirt as he dug where Nova had started to paw. The scientists stood back, silent but tense, the light from their portable lamps casting long shadows across the barn walls. The air buzzed, not just from the electrical hum of their equipment, but from something deeper, almost instinctive. Something was about to be revealed, and every part of them knew it. 2 feet down, the shovel struck something solid. It didn't sound like rock or wood. It rang, faintly metallic but dulled, as if whatever was buried had been there for a very long time. Walter cleared more dirt with his hands, brushing straw aside until he uncovered an object about the size of a hardcover book. Its surface shimmered with iridescent hues, purple, blue, silver, changing with every shift in the lantern light. The entire thing was covered in raised, smooth symbols, unlike any language anyone had ever seen. What the hell is that? Dr. Wang whispered. Walter stepped back, brushing his palms on his jeans. Whatever it is, she buried it here, or someone did, and Nova knew exactly where. Nova moved forward again. His mother let out a soft huff but didn't stop him. He stepped over the disturbed earth and touched his nose to the strange object. The symbols began to glow. Not just glow, pulse like they were alive. And then, suddenly, the air above the device shimmered and bloomed into light. A holographic projection lifted into the air, casting star maps, spiraling strands of DNA, and cascading symbols none of them could recognize. The barn was filled with soft, radiant illumination, dancing across their stunned faces. Oh my God, Ellie breathed. It's a communication system, Vasquez murmured, frantically trying to record it with her tablet. But our devices can't track it. It's not picking up anything. The hologram shifted. New images emerged, horse-like creatures, larger than any Earth species, standing in formations around glowing structures. Then more symbols, followed by what looked like genetic sequences being modified, passed down through generations. This is artificial selection, Wang said, her voice trembling. But not by humans. This is planned evolution. Long-term, multi-generational engineering. Nova stepped into the center of the glowing display. As he did, the images shifted again. A timeline appeared, starting with ancient Earth climates, ice ages, extinctions, rebirths. Then came flashing warnings. Climate instability, species collapse, ecological tipping points. At the end of the timeline, a red zone marked now. He's showing us why he's here, Dr. Patterson whispered. They've been preparing for something, for this moment. Walter stared, jaw tight. You're saying? He's not just different. He's part of a plan? Yes, Wang replied. A preservation plan, genetic enhancement, designed to help Earth's species survive what's coming. Suddenly, Nova looked straight at Ellie, then turned toward her laptop. With a series of deliberate movements, he used his hoof to scroll through files. Then, he began typing again. Interface successful. Phase 2. Activated. More will come. Prepare. Before anyone could speak, a sound echoed from outside, distant, rhythmic, and unmistakable. Hoofbeats. Walter was the first to move. He pushed the barn door open, the wind catching it with a bang, and stepped into the cool night air. The storm had passed. The moon peeked through the clouds, casting the field in silver light. And there they were, a line of Mustangs emerging from the forest edge. At least a dozen, maybe more. Each mare walked with purpose, and beside each of them trotted a glowing white foal, just like Nova. The scientists followed Walter out, their expressions unreadable as the sight unfolded before them, like something out of mythology. The herd moved silently, forming a loose crescent near the barn, watching, waiting. Ellie broke the silence. This isn't isolated, it's coordinated. These births were timed, chosen. Their arrival, Morales said, means we've crossed into something beyond science. This is contact. Inside the barn, the silver mare stood, calm and regal. Hope nestled against her, fast asleep. Nova stepped outside and stood facing the incoming herd. As the other foals reached the edge of the field, they paused. Then, one by one, they looked toward Nova and bowed. A flicker of understanding passed through Walter, as if a puzzle piece had clicked into place. He's not just different, he's the first. Dr. Vasquez nodded. The prototype, or the leader. Nova raised his head. His coat shimmered in the moonlight, reflecting not just light, but something more. Intention. He turned back toward the humans, his eyes holding theirs. The holographic display still danced behind him. It now showed Earth, covered in clusters of light. Signals, perhaps, or locations. One by one, those lights began to blink. Dr. Wang's tablet suddenly lit up with readings she couldn't explain. Energy surges, magnetic pulses, unknown frequencies. They're sending out a signal, she said breathlessly, calling others, or waking them. Back inside, the silver mare walked toward the strange object they had unearthed and stood over it, protective but calm. Her eyes flicked toward Walter. She knew all along, Ellie whispered. She chose this barn, she chose Walter. Why me? Walter asked aloud, mostly to himself, but no one had the answer. Not yet. Nova approached him again, slowly, and gently touched his forehead with his nose. And for the briefest moment, Walter didn't feel old or tired or out of place. He felt chosen. News travels fast, even faster when it defies science. By the next morning, Silver Creek was no longer just a quiet Colorado town nestled in the foothills. Satellite vans lined the road outside Walter Granger's ranch. Scientists, reporters, and government officials converged on the property like bees to a hive, some seeking answers, others seeking control. Drones buzzed overhead. Journalists shouted questions no one could yet answer. And in the eye of the storm stood Walter, unchanged. He leaned on the fence post by the front paddock, coffee steaming in his weathered hands, as a group of white foals, now over a dozen, grazed or explored the field with astonishing coordination. Their mothers stood in a loose circle, vigilant but calm. And in the center, Nova, no longer merely different but now clearly leading. The barn had been transformed into a full-scale, mobile research lab. Inside, Dr. Ellie Monroe coordinated with a task force from the National Institutes of Health, while Dr. Wang and Dr. Vasquez compiled data from Nova's scans, blood samples, and behavioral studies. Even with the most advanced tools in the country at their disposal, the conclusions remained the same. Nova, and the others like him, were not a result of natural evolution. "This is a designed intelligence," Dr. Vasquez said, pointing to the neural scans lighting up her monitor. His prefrontal cortex lights up during problem-solving tasks faster than any human subject we've studied. "They're not just intelligent," Wang added. "They're cooperative. We've seen them communicate through movement, through light patterns in their coats, subtle shifts that look like some kind of code. It's an entire nonverbal language." "They're not here to dominate," Ellie said, her eyes on Nova just outside the barn window. "They're here to work with us." Walter entered the barn quietly, a handful of hay for Hope and Nova. As he fed them, Nova stepped closer, his glowing coat dimming slightly, as if to match the gentle mood. "I don't care what their DNA says," Walter said softly. "He's still a horse, just not like any I've ever known." Nova looked at him, then slowly turned and walked to the table where Wang's laptop sat open. With astonishing precision, he used his hoof again to navigate the interface and brought up the communication file. The others gathered around as new text appeared, typed one deliberate character at a time. "Preservation Project. Active Humanity. Nature Cooperation Required Phase 3. Initiating. What's Phase 3? Ellie asked aloud. Nova didn't answer with text. Instead, he stepped back as the device recovered from the soil began to pulse. The symbols glowed brightly, then projected a new sequence of holographic images. The first showed collapsing ecosystems, melting glaciers, raging wildfires, and polluted oceans. The next sequence depicted humans and animals working together, planting forests, cleaning oceans, restoring wildlife corridors. And finally, a vision of the Earth blooming in vibrant green, with lights connecting across continents. "This is a blueprint," Dr. Patterson said, awe in his voice. "They're giving us a model, not just for survival, for repair." Walter stepped forward, slowly, thoughtfully. So they weren't just made to survive what's coming. They were made to help us stop it. The hologram shifted again, now displaying symbols that scrolled upward like ancient scripture. As the scientists scrambled to translate, Nova stepped forward, projecting his own hologram from the glowing lines on his skin. This time, it wasn't just text or science. It was memory. Images filled the barn, of the Silver Mare and others like her, in vast hidden places. Laboratories that shimmered with light and energy not of this world. And beings, not human but not threatening, guiding the birth of these enhanced foals. The memories showed Earth's history, spliced with moments of intervention, hidden in plain sight. The project had been going on for centuries, maybe longer. Nova was the culmination. And Earth? Earth was not abandoned. It was being protected. The hologram faded, and with it, the barn grew quiet again. Outside, more enhanced foals had arrived. Their coats shimmered like water under moonlight. Some approached the research team with clear intent. Nudging equipment, watching screens, responding to spoken words with intelligent movement. Across the world, similar reports began to pour in. Enhanced animals, equine, canine, even marine mammals, were appearing near settlements, offering aid in strange but meaningful ways. The message was clear. The Genetic Preservation Project had been quietly preparing Earth's species to weather the storm humanity refused to see. Now, that time had come, and Walter Granger's old barn had been chosen as the first bridge. Later that week, standing in front of national press cameras, Dr. Vasquez addressed the world. We are not alone in the fight to save this planet. Nature has been preparing a response to our damage, and it starts here with beings like Nova, bridging the intelligence of the wild with the urgency of human change. Walter didn't speak during the conference. He didn't have to. Back on the ranch, Nova ran across the field with Hope beside him, the two foals weaving together like threads in a tapestry. They paused at the ridge, side by side, looking over the valley. A new dawn was coming, not just for Silver Creek, but for the entire Earth.